You clicked this because part of you already suspects it's true, that what you were told was wrong with you might not be a flaw at all. You feel too much. You never quite fit. You can't accept the world the way everyone else seems to. You called it a defect. What if it was a mark, the light of Sophia, left in you, hiding inside the very things you were taught to be ashamed of? There are 7 ways it shows itself. The 5th changes everything, and carrying it doesn't make you better than anyone. Chosen just means you're one of the few who finally sees it. If you've spent your life calling your own light a flaw, comment, "I carry it," and watch for the 5th. The first mark is the one you've felt the longest, and the one you've most often mistaken for something else. A longing with no object. You know the feeling even if you've never had words for it. A quiet evening, a certain light, a song you weren't even paying attention to, and out of nowhere, an ache. A pull towards something sharp enough to stop you, and you cannot name a single thing it's pointed at. Not a person you lost, not a place you've been. Just an absence, shaped like a home you can't remember. You've spent years mistranslating it. You called it restlessness and changed jobs. You called it loneliness and found people. You called it discontent and changed cities. Every time, the ache waited about a month and came back, exactly the same, because none of those were what it wanted. Nothing here was ever what it wanted. That's the tell. A hunger that nothing in this world can feed is not a hunger that came from this world. The old teachers had a name for the light in you. They called it Sophia's, the wisdom that fell into this world and scattered. And a fragment that fell from somewhere else would do exactly this. Sit in your chest, quietly facing a direction your mind has no map for, homesick for a home you left before you were born. You were never just discontent. You were oriented towards something. And the ache is the needle of the compass. Sit with whether you felt it. Because the second mark is what happens when that ache turns and looks at the world around you. The first mark faces inward, an ache with no object. The second turns outward, and it's sharper because you feel it around other people. You've never quite belonged, anywhere. Picture the last time you were in a room full of people who were, by every measure, your people. Your family, your friends, colleagues who like you. Everyone's laughing, the night's going well, and you're there, present, smiling. And some quiet part of you is standing one step back, watching, aware of a pane of glass between you and the room that no one else seems to notice. You're not unhappy. You're not antisocial. You love these people. You just can't fully cross the distance, and you never could, not even as a child. Watch how you learned to handle it. You became fluent. You studied how belonging looked, and you reproduced it. The right responses, the right warmth, the right timing. You got good enough that most people never suspect. But fluency isn't nativeness. You can speak a language perfectly and still know, every single second, that it isn't your first one. That's what moving through this world has felt like. Total fluency, zero belonging. Ordinary explanations don't hold up here. It isn't shyness. Shy people want in and can't. You're already in and still outside. It isn't superiority. You don't feel above the room, you feel foreign to it, which is a different and lonelier thing. The old teachers would say the reason is simple. You don't feel native here because you aren't. The light in you came from somewhere else, and a thing knows its own home. It can live anywhere. It only belongs in one place, and this was never it. I told you people argue with me about this one. Here it is. Ask yourself a question and answer it honestly, not the way you're supposed to. Have you ever, even once, believed this was all there is? Not out loud. You know better than to say it out loud. But underneath, in the part of you that doesn't perform, has the official version of life ever actually convinced you? Get the education, get the job, get the partner, get the house, accumulate, retire, die, and that's it? That's the whole thing? Some people believe that. They're not lying when they say it's enough. But you have never once managed to fully believe it, and you felt slightly broken for it, because everyone acts like it should be enough, and it just isn't. Not for you. It never was. This is where people push back. That's just ingratitude, they say. That's privilege. That's depression. That's failing to appreciate what you have. And then, quietly, weeks later, some of them come back and admit they've felt the exact same thing their whole lives and never dared call it what it is. So let me call it. It was never ingratitude. You can be deeply grateful for your life and still know, in your bones, that the frame around it is too small. Both are true at once. That's the third mark. Not wanting more things, but sensing the whole container is the wrong size for what's inside you. And of course it feels that way. Something built for a fullness you can't remember is never going to mistake a life-sized box for home. The walls aren't the problem. The fact that there are walls at all, that's what you keep bumping into. Everyone told you to decorate the cell better. You kept asking why there was a cell. The first 3 marks are all forms of ache. Missing, not belonging, not fitting. The 4th is the first one that isn't pain. It's something in you that should have broken and didn't. The first 3 marks are all forms of ache. Missing something, not belonging, not fitting the frame. The 4th is different. It's the first mark that isn't pain. It's the one that saved your life, and you never once gave it credit because you didn't know it was there. You have survived something that should have ended you, and you don't know how. Go back to it. Everyone has at least one. The stretch that should have been the end of the road. Maybe it was a loss so complete it hollowed you out. Maybe a betrayal that took the floor out from under everything you trusted. Maybe just a long gray season with no single catastrophe, only the slow accumulation of weight until getting out of bed was the hardest thing you did all day. Whatever it was, take yourself back to the worst night of it. The one where you were on the floor or staring at the ceiling at 4 a.m., and something in you said, quietly and with total certainty, I cannot do this anymore. And here's the thing you've never fully reckoned with. You were right, you couldn't. By every honest measure, you had reached the end of what you could carry. The math of it said you were done. People with less loaded onto them have gone under and stayed under, and no one would have been surprised if you had too. But you didn't. Morning came, and something got you upright. Not hope. You had no hope that morning, not a plan. You had no plan, not willpower. And this is the part I need you to actually hear because it matters. It was not willpower. Willpower is a tank, and yours was empty. Willpower is something you spend, and you had spent all of it weeks ago. Whatever stood you up that morning was operating after willpower was gone. It was underneath it, lower than the part of you that tries. It was still burning when the part of you that tries had already surrendered. You've spent years since then either taking no credit for that, I just got through it, I don't know how, or giving the credit to the wrong thing. You called it strength and felt like a fraud because it never felt like strength. Strength feels like effort, and this felt like something holding underneath your effort, something you weren't doing. You called it luck. You called it your kids, your responsibilities, the thing you had to stay alive for. And those were real, but they were the reasons you wanted to keep going, not the thing that actually kept the light on when wanting had run out. Here is what the old teachers would tell you it was. A light that does not originate in you cannot be exhausted by you. Your willpower is yours, so it runs dry. Your hope is yours, so it can be taken. But the spark that fell into you came from a source that doesn't run on the fuel this world uses. And so, when everything that was yours had burned down to nothing, the one thing that wasn't yours was still lit. That's why you couldn't account for it. You were looking for the source inside your own resources, and it was never in your resources. It was the thing they buried in you, doing the one thing it cannot stop doing, refusing to go out. That floor beneath the floor, the bottom that held when there should have been no bottom left, is the fourth mark, and it changes how you read your own history. Every time you thought, I barely survived that, you had it slightly wrong. You didn't barely survive it. Something in you was never in danger at all. The first 4 marks prove the light is in you. The 5th is different in kind, because the 5th is the light doing something the first 4 never do. The 5th is the moment it stops hiding and looks back at you. The first 4 marks all point the same direction, inward, at what you carry. The longing, the not belonging, the frame too small, the light that wouldn't go out. 4 different symptoms of one buried thing. But a symptom is not the thing. You can feel all 4 your entire life and still never meet what's causing them. Most people do exactly that. They ache, they drift, they endure, and they die without once turning around to look at the source. The 5th mark is turning around. The 5th mark is recognition. The moment the light stops hiding and knows itself. And I have to tell you exactly where this comes from, because a claim this large is worthless if you can't trace it. And you're going to be able to trace it. It comes from a text called the Apocryphon of John, the secret book of John. Here's the part almost no one is told. It does not open with a narrator or a priest or a philosopher. It opens with Christ after the resurrection, after he had, in the text's own words, returned to the place he came from, appearing to one disciple to give him the teaching that was left out of the public story. So when this text describes the light in you and how it wakes, understand who is doing the describing. It is the risen Christ telling John the thing underneath everything. And what he describes is this: when the lower God, the one who built this world and believed himself the only God there was, shaped the first human body, it lay there lifeless. He could not give it real life because he had none of his own to give. So he was tricked into breathing into it the one thing he had that wasn't his, the light he had unknowingly inherited from Sophia. The moment he breathed, that light left him and entered the human. And the human opened its eyes and was instantly more awake than the God who made it. That is the light in you, not a metaphor. In the text's own account, an actual fragment of the fallen wisdom breathed into the human form and never able to be taken back out. The first 4 marks are that light, trapped, making itself felt through the walls. The ache of a thing that remembers a home, the foreignness of a thing that doesn't belong here, the restlessness of a thing built for more, the endurance of a thing that cannot be put out. All 4 are the light pressing against its confinement, real but passive, suffered, not chosen. The 5th mark is the light doing the one thing the first 4 never do. It recognizes itself. Something you read or hear or realize alone at 2 a.m. lands not as new information but as memory, a quiet, total, floor-dropping certainty that says, I already knew this. I have always known this. I just never had the words, and now someone said the words, and every cell in me answered before my mind could argue. That is not learning. Learning is effort. This is the opposite of effort. It's the click of a key you didn't know was in your hand turning in a lock you didn't know was there. It's the light in you seeing its own reflection for the first time and realizing it was never alone, never crazy, never broken, just asleep. And here is why the 5th changes everything. Why it isn't just one more item on a list. The first 4 keep you alive inside the prison. The 5th is the only one that opens the door. A person can carry the light their whole life and stay asleep, and the powers that built this place are perfectly content to let them. An aching, drifting, enduring prisoner is still a prisoner. What they cannot allow is the light waking up and knowing what it is, because a light that recognizes itself cannot be kept in the dark anymore. The recognition is the escape. Everything before it is just proof you had something worth escaping with. If you have felt even a flicker of that, if anything in this video has landed as memory instead of information, if some part of you has been quietly saying, yes, I know, I've always known while I talked, then the fifth mark is already happening in you, right now, as you listen. That is the light turning around. And if it's turning, you're going to want the whole map. Which of these marks is strongest in you, how each one is named in the texts, and how to keep the fifth awake once it opens. That's what I built the Archon Codex for. Every mark, every source cited so you can check each claim against the ancient texts yourself. The link is the first line of the description. You don't need it to feel what's happening right now. But if the recognition has started and you want to know exactly what's waking up in you, that's where the whole thing is laid out. Now, the last two marks. Because once the light has turned around, it starts to notice two more things about the world it woke up in. Once the light turns around and knows itself, two things change in how you move through the world. Not aches anymore. Those were the sleeping marks. These two are what the light does once it's awake, and they pull in opposite directions, which is why they've confused you your whole life. The sixth mark. You are drawn to exactly what you were warned away from. Think about where your attention has always gone, against instruction. The questions the adults changed the subject to avoid. The books, the ideas, the corners of things everyone agreed were dangerous, forbidden, not for you, better left alone. You were told to stay away, and something in you leaned in, not out of rebellion, not to be difficult, but because the forbidden thing felt less like danger and more like a locked room with your own name on the door. Everyone else accepted the warning and moved on. You couldn't. The warning itself was a signal to you, pointing the exact opposite way it was meant to. Here's why. The things you were most warned away from are, almost always, the things that would wake you up. That's not a coincidence. It's the whole design. A sleeping prisoner is warned hardest away from the one corridor that leads out. So the pull you felt toward the forbidden was never recklessness. It was the light, already faintly awake, recognizing its own way home and turning you toward it, while every authority around you tried to turn you back. You were called troubled or rebellious, or a seeker of things you had no business seeking. You were being magnetized toward the exit by the one part of you that could see it, and then, pulling the other way, the mark that isolates, the seventh mark, a loneliness that company cannot cure. This is not ordinary loneliness. Ordinary loneliness is solved by people, and you know that solution. You've used it, it works for a while. This is different. You can be surrounded by people who love you in a full and warm life, genuinely not alone by any external measure, and still carry a loneliness underneath it all that no amount of company touches. You've felt guilty about it. I have people who love me. What right do I have to feel alone? And you couldn't explain it, so you assumed something was wrong with you, some defect in your capacity to connect. Nothing is wrong with your capacity to connect. The loneliness isn't pointed at people. It's pointed at the source. It is the specific ache of a fragment separated from the whole it was broken off of, a distance that other fragments, other people cannot close, because they are not the thing you are missing. Only the source is. You can love and be loved completely and still feel it, because human closeness, however real, is horizontal, and this loneliness is vertical. It reaches up, not out. That's why company never cured it. You were trying to fill a vertical absence with horizontal company and it never fit, and you blamed yourself for a hunger that was never yours to fix that way. Look at what these two do together. The sixth pulls you toward the exit. The seventh makes sure you can never fully settle into the prison, no matter how comfortable it gets. One is the light seeking its way out. The other is the light refusing to be at home anywhere but its source. Between them, they guarantee you'll keep looking, which is exactly what the powers that built this place did not want. and could not prevent. That's all 7. And now the question that decides what you do with them. So you have all 7. The question now is the only one that matters. Does the 5th mark stay awake, or does it close its eyes again? Because here is the hard truth nobody tells you. Recognition is not permanent. The light can turn around, know itself for one clear hour, and then the world closes back over it, and a week later you're asleep again, aching and not remembering why. Waking up once is not the finish line. Almost everyone who has ever felt the 5th mark has also lost it, over and over. The practice is not how you wake up, it's how you stop falling all the way back asleep. And before I give it to you, one warning, because this is where people take a true thing and turn it into a cage. Keeping the 5th mark awake is not about deciding you're too good for ordinary life. It is not looking down on people who don't feel these marks, not treating your family or your work or your relationships as beneath you, not sitting in spiritual superiority waiting to ascend. That isn't the light awake. That's the ego wearing the light like a costume, and it will isolate you and call the isolation enlightenment. The marks were never permission to leave your life. They're a way to be inside it without being asleep in it. Anyone who tells you the recognition means you're better than the people around you has misunderstood it completely. And so had I, until I saw what it actually asks, which is smaller and quieter than superiority and much harder. Here is the practice. It takes 5 minutes, and you do it not once, but whenever you feel yourself going back under. First, notice which mark is loudest today. Not all 7. Just the one closest to the surface right now. The longing, the not belonging, the ache that this isn't all there is, the endurance, the pull toward the forbidden, the loneliness that won't lift. Name it to yourself in the plainest words you have, the way you'd tell a friend what's actually going on. Not in mystical language, just the truth of what you feel. That plain naming is the first turn of the key. The instant you can say what the feeling is, you've stepped out of it enough to see it, instead of only being carried by it. Second, correct the old translation. For years you had a name for this feeling, and it was the wrong one. A defect, a weakness, a thing wrong with you. Say the correction out loud, in your own voice. This was never a flaw. It's the light, and I've been reading it backwards. Say it, even if you don't fully believe it yet. You're not affirming something false. You're replacing a mistranslation you were handed with the reading that was true the whole time. Third, and this is the 5th mark itself, let it recognize instead of explain. Go quiet. Don't analyze the feeling. Don't try to fix it or trace its cause. Just turn toward it the way you'd turn toward a sound you recognize, and ask inward without demanding an answer. What in me already knows what this is? Then stop. Don't answer with your thinking mind. The answer was never a thought. Wait for the quiet thing underneath the noise, the part that doesn't argue, the part that just knows. When something in you goes still and certain, without reasons, that stillness is the light looking back at you. That is the 5th mark. Awake, on purpose, by your own hand. Then close it, and return. One line, spoken like it's already true, because it is. I know what I carry now, and I don't have to leave my life to keep it lit. Then get up and go back to your day. The same job, the same people, the same ordinary evening, but carrying the light with your eyes open instead of asleep. That's the whole thing. Not ascension, not escape. Just refusing to forget again what you are, in the middle of a life that is constantly trying to make you forget. Do that whenever you feel yourself going under, and the 5th mark stops being a moment that happened to you once. It becomes something you can return to on purpose for the rest of your life. One last thing, and it's the question that's probably been sitting under this whole video. If these 7 marks are real, if the light is actually in you, why did no one ever tell you? You had teachers, parents, faith maybe, whole institutions built to explain who you are. And not one of them ever said, "What you're feeling isn't a defect, it's a light, and here's how to read it." Instead, every one of them handed you the opposite. The longing? Fix it. The not belonging? Something's wrong with you. The sense that this isn't all there is? Ingratitude. The loneliness? A failure to connect. Every mark, translated for you as a flaw to correct. Sit with why that would be. A person who believes their marks are defects spends their whole life trying to repair themselves. Quiet, busy, obedient, forever working on the wrong problem, never once turning around to see what they actually carry. A person who reads the same marks correctly turns around, recognizes the light, and cannot be managed the same way again. You don't need a conspiracy to explain it. You only need to notice that every system built to shape people has the same quiet interest, that you experience your own light as something broken in you. The mistranslation wasn't an accident. It was the most useful thing anyone ever did to you. And to keep this honest, the way I have the whole way through, the text this comes from is 2nd century. The Apocryphon of John, buried and dug out of the sand at Nag Hammadi in 1945. It doesn't claim to be older than the story you were raised on. It claims to be the part that was left out, the revelation the risen Christ gave privately that never made it into the public version. It survives in 4 independent manuscripts, and the Bishop Irenaeus was already writing against it by around 180 AD. It circulated early and widely enough to frighten the people building the official account. You don't write volumes against a text nobody is reading. So go back to where we started, to the person who spent their whole life being told something was wrong with them. You know now what that was. Not a defect. 7 marks of one light misread as flaws by everyone who handed them to you. And the 5th, the one that turns around and knows itself. Already stirring in you if any of this landed as memory instead of news. And here's the part that undoes every version of this that tries to rush you. There's no window closing. Nothing expires tonight. The light doesn't have to be seized before some deadline. It's already in you. It always was. And the proof is that you recognized yourself in marks I only described. The only thing left is small and quiet, and entirely yours. To stop calling your light a flaw, and to turn back toward it the next time the world talks you out of it. That doesn't happen on a clock. It happens the next time you feel a mark and, for once, read it right. So here's what I'll ask, and none of it is urgent, because none of it has to be. If you recognized yourself in even one of these marks, comment which number it was 1 through 7, so the others carrying the same light can find each other. If this reordered how you see your own life, subscribe. The map goes deeper than one video, and I'm walking it one buried text at a time. And if it moved something, like it. So the next person who spent their life calling their light a flaw finds the reading a little sooner than you did. You were never broken. You were carrying something they taught you to be ashamed of. Now you know its name, and a light you can name is a light you can keep.